Okay, welcome back, friends. This is Mr. GCT here. So today, another it have released date that I haven't uploaded my content, but the reason is simply because I've been writing my school mock, but now that I'm done, yeah, I think I can try and do something. Well, we are going to be uh, we are going to answer June 2023 programming computer science paper 3. Well, it's simply a diamond or star, like a program that prints a diamond shape on the screen, and it asks the user to enter like the days, like the maximum number of stars to be printed in the screen. So here is a demo. Here I'm going to give a demo and you see. But before that, I just want to tell you guys that programming is easy, guys. Like there's no big deal about it, because I know a lot of students, they keep on complaining about computer science, especially programming. Well, imagine you ask, for example, in a real life situation, you ask maybe a francophone to write a sentence in English. I mean, the guy will be like, français du, anglais du, right? It's just like if the francophone masters the alphabet, just like maybe the syntax of C now, will be able to write the English. I don't know whether you are trying to understand me. The reason I'm just trying to tell you guys that C is when you know the syntax, the language, all you need now is thinking, like how you can think, right? Because the difficult part is not actually the program part, is the breaking down of the problem into in small manageable ways that you can solve it. I think that's the difficult part about programming. If you are able to understand the problem, break it down, like abstraction, right? Focus on the important stuff, and I think that's all. Because the language is not really a problem. Okay, now that was a small advice to my friends who are complaining about programming. Now let's dive into our subject of today. So the program asks us to enter the base of diamond, that it should be an odd positive integer. For example, if I enter 7 and I press enter, boom, you see the diamond shape, right? So that's what we're going to be coding today. It's easy, and trust me, this program is very simple. There is no complex thing inside. So just follow along, be patient, and you finally code something that looks like this. Okay, let's begin. Let me scroll down as section A. It says plotting program development. Okay, describing the task. Many interesting programming problems involve nested loops can be encountered when creating plots using a printer. Your task is to create a plot in figure 1 pyramid. That's this figure, right? In a general manner, with the size of the base entered at the beginning. You saw how I entered the base, right? When you enter the base at the beginning of the program execution. Okay, arrays are not used to do this. Wow, see, arrays are not used. That means there's no complex thing about it, because if we are to use array, it will be a lot more easier. Okay, arrays are not used. They say the grid lines are just to ease working with the figure. The lines are not directly needed to answer this question. So in your program, there's these grid lines that passes across horizontally and vertically. They are not needed. Okay, they say a pyramid has a number of stars at its base. That's maximum number of stars, and was the 7 we entered, and it's made up of rows and of spaces and stars. Each line of the pyramid is made up of an odd number. So you enter the maximum number of stars as an odd number. For example, the 7 we entered before. Okay, of leading spaces, number of spaces followed by a number of stars. Number of stars in bracket. This is how you are going to declare a variables as we are going to be coding along. Okay, they say they are blank after the star. They are blanks after the stars. So here are the blanks before the star is printed. Okay, but they are not important for this exercise. And they say after the star, that means these other stars, right? You have the leading stars, the leading spaces, and these other spaces that are after. So it is not important for this exercise as mentioned. Okay, here is a figure one that we're talking about. It's just a basic triangle thing. Okay, now another thing is that programming, like in paper 3, you can grab some few marks without actually coding. Like for example, look at task 1. You find it that 8 marks, you just fill in your answer sheet, and that's all. You get your 8 marks. If you are able to understand the problem, you can grab your 8 marks here without actually coding. Isn't that just amazing, boy? Like seriously. Okay, we have now um they said task 1, problem understanding. Okay, 1. A solution to this problem is outlined in the following algorithm. Okay, we will start by initialize number of space and stars. Repeat for the current line. For example, line 1, we have output leading spaces. After output leading spaces, we output line of stars. Just a simple algorithm. Adjust the number of spaces and stars. Maybe is it decreasing or is it increasing? Like just either for each line, right? And until number of stars is the number required, maybe up to the maximum number of stars. See, just a basic pseudocode, right? Algorithm. Okay, say mindful of the task description above, consider the pyramid of stars in figure 1 above and carry out the following. So you can do this in your answer sheet. They say Roman 1, state the initial value of the values for maximum number of stars. Whereas maximum number of stars is simply the base here, which if you count, you are going to see that it's going to be 11. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so max number of stars, like this, they define as, they use it as the abbreviation max, then number of stars, so it's equals to 11. Okay, that's Roman 1. Roman 2, state the number of leading spaces and stars of the first line. Number of leading spaces is simply these spaces before the first star. So you count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number of leading spaces, like number of leading number of, I'll just put number of spaces just as the set number of, because the abbreviation is no of spaces. Okay, of spaces, which is equals to 5. Now the same, and number of stars for the first line. Number of stars is simply equals to 1 for the first line, right? We have 5 number of spaces and 1 star for the first line. Now in Roman 3, it says state the number of leading spaces and stars for the second line. Here I already marked that we are graphing without actually coding. So for the second line, I have let me put this second line, maybe just number of stars, number of spaces. I'll just to save time, it is equals to 4. For the second line, you see 1, 2, 3, 4. That means it has decremented by 1 from 5 to 4, and number of stars has gone to, it has increased, it has left from 1 to 3, so it's increasing by 2 if you watch carefully. Okay, so that's all about. Then we have Roman 4, which says between successive lines the number of stars reduces. Why? Now I want you guys to take note of this. From the look of the figure, you see that the number of stars is actually increasing, not reducing. So I don't really know. These are type of errors that like I've seen in some tunes, and I don't really know whether we are to follow the way they are or do some adjustment. I mean, if you think we are to continue like that or adjust it, just comment below. And it's also a problem that I too am facing, right? I'm also writing my GCE here. So recently, sometimes I've seen a lot of I don't know whether it's typing error or the examiner, I don't know, they make mistakes sometimes in read GCE papers, right? So actually it's supposed to be increased while the number of leading spaces reduces, because you can see that the number of leading spaces is actually reducing, not increasing. So that's one error. So they say, hence by what amount should you modify number of spaces and number of stars before printing the next line in the pyramid if we print successive rows from the top of the pyramid? So the modification is simply, for example, here's the modification: number of spaces, right? If you look at the number of spaces is simply equals to max number of stars minus 1 divided by 2. Because for example, you say, let me type it. So I'm going to have max number of stars minus 1, then divided by 2. Look very well. What's the max number of stars? 11. If you minus it by 1, you are going to have 10. Now 10 divided by 2, 5, which is the first line, which is the number of spaces for the first line. So that's the number of spaces. So that's the modification we have to make in our program. Now, and for the number of spaces, are we to do for number of stars? Yeah, number of stars now is reducing, decrementing, right? So we'll be like number of stars minus 1, or just put number of stars minus in C. But I really know that it's like number of stars equals to number of stars again minus number of stars minus 1, like a number of number of stars plus 1, because you are see increasing by a plus 2 is increasing by 2. So you have the number of stars, you take the number of stars again, you add it by 2. Yes, because number of stars is incrementing by 2, while number of spaces is decrementing by 1. And to get that, we use a formula: maximum number of stars minus 1 divided by 2 is going to give us the number of spaces. And that's all for task 1, and you get your 8 marks. Isn't that, like, look at what we are just sitting here and we are able to get our 8 marks. That's all. Okay, let's go now to the real stuff. This is where the business starts, right here. Okay, 12 marks, task 2. It says program development. Wow. Choose either the Pascal or the C program language. For us, we are using C to implement your plot of the pyramid of stars. Okay, they say 2. Using a suitable editor of your choice, write the following function and or procedures. Okay, they say Roman 1. A procedure initialize which to initialize the variables max number of stars, number of spaces, and number of stars for the first line. So the procedure is simply going to just be below. Okay, our procedure, I'm going to put our procedure here. Okay, just below the hash include library, std.h library, right? So in it, I hope everything is okay for this first part. We are now in task 2. So for the procedure, we are going to use void. No procedures start with void. Then they said void initialize. Yes, initialize. So we're going to be initialize. Yes, initialize. I hope that is spelled correctly. Yes, voila. For now, we are not taking parameters, but ahead of time we are going to put parameters. You see why. Okay, that was our first procedure. Okay, that initialize the variables this. So for the very beginning, we are going to initialize the variable number of stars. So we can just copy this line, Ctrl C, paste it. always end with semicolon in C programming language is one of the rules. Then number of spaces, let's say initialize number of stars, number of spaces. Yes. Now, but we know that number of spaces can be used with this formula. Simply this. I mean, you could still do it the other way around by putting 5, but for a general, for a more general case, you use this formula with semicolon, because you can see the number of spaces is simply the max number of stars minus 1 divided by 2. For the first line, you saw that was we have max number of stars as 11 minus 1 10 divided by 2 5, which is correct. Now we'll take now number of stars, which is number of stars, yes, which is 1 for the first line. So that's all for the initialize function or procedure. Now Roman 2, they say procedure output leading spaces, which takes the number of n spaces and output that number of leading spaces for a line on the screen. Okay, another procedure void. Now I already commented for the whole program. I to ease our work, I made comments to the various sections we have to code, right, to make our work organized. So for example, we are going to use some global variables here, global variables as we go along. But for now, we are under the function initialize, right? Initialize variables. So I'm just going to simply cut all of this up here, and I'll put it down here. So just to make our, commenting code is one of the characteristics of a good programmer, right? So when you comment your code, and maybe after a month when you come back, you still understand what you did. Or even if a different programmer is reading your code, like you guys watching, you can still understand what I'm doing without actually seeing my me explain. Like from their comments, you can understand what is going on. Okay, so I just commented the various sections as we cut along. Now in Roman 2, they say procedure our leading spaces here. We are going to do it here. Okay, so we're going to be void output leading spaces, like leading spaces, yes, leading spaces. You can see for each word I'm starting with a capital letter. For out we have capital O, for leading capital L, and space we have capital S. Output leading spaces with parameters. So we're going to be an integer, n spaces, capital S spaces. Okay, so we're going to take advantage of that. Now in it, output leading spaces, they say, which takes the number of n spaces and output that number of leading spaces for a line. Okay, now for n spaces, you can see okay, we're going to use a loop that is going to be decrease, like going to, for now our procedure is only to print the first line, so let's not bother now for decreasing. In the upcoming like instruction, we will see how we can decrease it. So for now we just have to write a procedure to print for the first line. So for the first line, we're going to use a for loop. Now int, we're going to use a variable I, which is going to start from 0. Now this I should be less than n spaces, this n spaces, right? Now I now plus plus. Okay, so for that we're going to use our printf statement, and in it we print star, right? Yes. Now we end with a semicolon, and boom, that's all. So for the first line, why I starts from 0 and is less than n spaces, we could still put y I equals to 1, but here we put less than or equals to. But since we are started from 0, we put with less than, so that, because you count from, like for example, 1 to 5 and you start instead from 0, you see that you end out in 4. So like I think you understand what I mean. So counting from 0 will be less than, but counting from 1 will be less than or equals to. Okay, that was all for output leading spaces. Now the next step is the same. The procedure output line of stars that takes as parameter n stars, which takes the number of n stars and output the number of stars for each line. Yeah, we have done that one. Yes, line of stars. No, this one for leading spaces. Oh god. So let me just copy here. No. It's going to be space. Voila. That's all. Because I just made a mistake. So I'll tell you to print a star. So when you look very well, you see that the spaces come first before the star. So output leading spaces from my comment. Don't worry, it's too much not to be on the screen and actually could you tend to make mistakes. But yeah, so it's normal to make mistakes. Okay, so now we have to do now for um, output leading number of stars, right? So it's to create a void procedure. So we're going to be the first one to stars. The first one was spaces up here. Now output number of line of stars. Okay, so it's simply going to be like literally going to be the same thing, but you'll see the modification. That's how we'll do it. So I'll just copy and paste to save time. So inside here going to be output line of stars. Line how did I write this? Put output line of stars, yes, like this. So it's going to take as parameter n capital S stars. Okay, now here going to be n stars. So why I is less than y from 0 is less than n stars, we should output now star. Now to make your work organized, so after I print the first one, I will rely that as you printing the next star, there should be you should go to the next line, right? So to do that, we are going to use the /n function, right? So printf /n /n to permit us to go to the next line while printing the next star. Okay, and that's it for this function or procedure. Now asked now to write a procedure adjust. Now this adjust, now they say adjust the variable number of stars, number of spaces to the values used to print the next row of blanks and stars. So we can see that the number of stars is increasing while the number of spaces is decreasing. So we're still going to use this idea. Simply going to be, so we're going to write void adjust. Okay, it's not going to take any parameter. So to save time, I'll just copy and paste this what we have here. So literally, like when you are doing when you're answering your answer sheet, writing with your pen above is simply what you're going to code in your program. So you can see that in adjust, number of spaces is going to be incrementing. Okay, so here now we are going to do some modification here to make it suit. For example, number of stars, right, is going to be equals to plus 2. So number of stars incrementing by 2, while number of spaces is going to be decrementing by 1. So minus minus. So minus minus is simply, you could say put number of spaces equals to number of spaces minus 1, but to make your work neat and organized and to show that you are a good programmer, just put minus minus. This is the correct way and most beautiful way to do it. So number of stars is going to be incrementing by 2, so this is a way to write in another way to write in C, plus equals to 2. So it means that you're going to be adding 2 after each line. Or you could still put number of stars equals to number of stars plus 2, but it takes a lot of time and consumes the memory for nothing. Okay, now for now, yes, after doing that, in step 3 they say develop the algorithm given as pseudocode in task 1. So this algorithm, okay, as a main program and calls the procedure or functions you implemented in task 2. There's the procedures over here. Again, we are going to have for it the number of spaces, number of stars, max number of stars presented under task description are stored in as global variable. Voila. So we are going to go up here and store our global variables, like so. We're going to be int, they are all integers, right? Int number of stars, to save time we just copy and paste, comma, number of spaces, right? Copy and paste just to save time. Now number of stars, Control V and S. Okay, here is our global variable. So int max number of stars, number of spaces, and number of stars. Yes, they look like the same, but these spaces here is stars. Okay, so after declaring as global variables are set here. No, global variable is simply a variable that, how can I say, that you can use in any function in your program, either in the main function or any individual procedure or function. While other types of variables are like local variables. It's simply a variable that is like independent, that is only in a particular function. It cannot be used out of that function, right? Just to give you guys in space of what we are doing. Okay, now that we are done with that, they said hint, the condition number of stars is the number required in the algorithm could be coded as number of stars greater than number of stars, max number of stars. Here is another problem, right? Number of stars cannot be greater than maximum number of stars, because from our program shape we can see that number of stars will either be less than or equals to max number of stars, not greater than. So this is another typing error, or I don't really know why the example. I hope you understand what I'm saying. It is a fallacy to be it for it to be like this. Okay, so this instead should be number of stars less than or equals to maximum number of stars when it reaches the base, right? Okay, now don't worry about these other comments, and yeah, don't worry about this other comment. We'll see why I put it as we go along. Okay, so in our main program we are supposed to follow this. We are supposed to follow the pseudocode, this pseudocode, and call the various function. So don't worry about here again. Also, we're going to use initialize. Okay, we're going to start from here. But for this other comment, you'll see it ahead of as we are coding along. Now, for that, here they say initialize variables. So let's call out for our program to begin. We need to first call our, because from the pseudocode C they said initialize number of spaces and stars. So we just need to call our function or procedure initialize, right? Initialize variable, Control C to save time and paste it here. Control V. Let me see. Yes. Now, no parameter for now. No parameters for now. Okay, so it's going to start by initializing all the max numbers, number of spaces, stars to this. So when we call the function, it will do that one for us. Now we'll continue. Forget about this other comment, we'll see it ahead of time. Now, what we have to do now, this other comment, yes, we'll do it as we go along. Now, this to print now the upper part of the diamond, because if you go down, you see that there's the upper and the down part. But for now, we are still on the upper part, which is like a triangle. Okay. Now to do that, we have to follow again this pseudocode that has been written for us. Okay, so we're going to use a do while loop, right? So we're going to do this because we see the program execute before the condition, because it's until number of stars reach the number required. So do this while our condition comes here, and with the semicolon, don't forget. So this is the structure we're going to use. Something, yes, we're going to do like this. So do, in our do, we need to call the function output leading spaces. So here, where's output leading spaces? Here, right? Output leading spaces with these parameters. Okay, Control C. Right here, we're going to change the parameters to be, okay, we'll call it output leading spaces. The parameter is going to be number of spaces. I'm going to take the parameter number of spaces, because inside here our number of spaces in the function here is going to be this, right? So I'm going to pass it the value number of spaces, which is going to enter now in this procedure and take it as number of spaces here. With the condition here, you're going to print the space, right? I hope everything is clear. Okay, let's continue. After calling that, remember to close semicolon. Now the next one is to output line of star. So call again this function line of stars. Let's copy and okay, copy and paste. I'm doing this just to save time, guys. Okay, because the video is becoming too lengthy. Okay, so going to be number of stars here. We're going to take as parameter number of stars and pass it to our procedure output line of stars. Okay, after that, now we are now set to call the procedure adjust number of stars and spaces to the next line. Okay, so we just call our function adjust. Yes. Okay, so this procedure, call it, there's no parameter for it, and the condition. Now they said here that it should be number of stars greater than maximum number of stars. Actually, it's supposed to be number of stars, right, less than or equals to max number of stars. Here's the right condition, just keep in mind. And remember, please ask your teachers if we are to modify code during programming, if maybe the serial code is wrong or the algorithm, to, because I don't really know, because some of these examiners, they tend to make some mistakes, right? I mean, nobody is perfect. Yeah, I kind of understand, but ask and comment below. I would also want to know. Okay, let's continue. Now that's all, right? Let's print and see if our program runs for now, before, because they say now execute your program, run your program for a pyramid base of 9. So they say base should be 9. For now, we are not yet asking the user to enter. We will ask the user in the upcoming process, following of steps like this below. So our base should be 9 as set here, and test it to make sure that it works correctly. Screenshot the output and save the file name. Task 3, print the screen. Print the screenshot. Print a copy of your program source code and attach in your answer. Yes. Okay, the moment of truth. Let's see our where we make syntax errors and all the rest. Okay, compiling and running. Boom. Hey, we luckily managed to type without errors. I mean, wow. But sometimes there are always errors. That when you become good at programming, and no, that will not be like magic for you. But sometimes you reach that moment where you just type, run your program, and there's no error. Okay, but if there are errors, don't be frustrated. It's normal as a program to make errors. Okay, you see that our base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, correct. So this is the first section. Now we are everything works correctly. We are now to go now to the next. It says save your program as this. I hope you know how to screenshot, right? So for example, if you want to screenshot, use the tool sniping. Just go to your Windows tab and type sniping tools. I don't know whether is it snipping or sniping. It depends the way you pronounce it. Right, but this is the app. When you open it, take new and just drag the section you want to. This is just a demo. Like for example, you want to screenshot here, just drag like this, and boom, you save it as mentioned. Choose your directory where you want to save. I'm sure maybe your folder. Yes, save it as tags. Just as I said, but I'm not doing that because just to show you how to do it. Yeah, right? Okay. Now let's continue. So when you do that, you save it. You continue with the program, which says now in task 4, modify your program. Here, I'm sure here we're going to ask now user. So we're going to print at the full shape. Okay, say modify your program so that it asks the user to enter an opposite integer. You see now, here we are to enter the base, not implementing in the compile time, right? Here is going to be inputted in the runtime. Okay, and then it displays a diamond of stars based on the number. For example, the value 7 would produce this, which from the very beginning you can still recall we use our base as 7 and output it like this. So be patient, we'll reach there. Okay, say from your program for a pyramid of base 7 and test it. It said run your program for a pyramid of base 7 and test it to make sure that it works correctly. Screenshot the output, blah 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 blah. Go through the instruction, print this is okay. Yeah, this other one is 6 marks, the whole task. To modify now, right? We are going to. It's really easy, boys. Like I don't know why I keep on saying, but it's really right to say that. Anyway, it's really easy, guys. So, the idea is since we are already printed this upper part, right? It's simply just to invert it. That's all. If we are able to invert this other triangle we have, right, we are going to have the full shape. Now there are going to be some few adjustments, but it's easy. Don't worry. We're going to code it along. You are with Mr. DCT. With programming, everything is easy. Okay, so adjust. This adjust was okay. What have I done? Okay, was 9 here, right? Yes. Now let me come here and adjust. Yes. Okay. In adjust, we're just going to reverse this adjust, right? So instead of it to be incrementing the number of stars by 2, we're going to be decrementing by 2, and instead of the number of spaces to be decrementing by 1, is going to be incrementing by 1. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because if you look very well from below here, you see that the number of stars now is decrementing, that is decreasing, while number of spaces is increasing. So it's completely the inverse of this upper part. So we have to do that. Boom. Okay, so here I commented already function to adjust spaces and stars for the previous line. Okay, so we just need to copy this, paste it below, and just modify it. Instead of maybe adjust, we should be adjust reverse, going to be more cool and organized. Yes, now instead of number of stars spaces to be decrementing, it should be increasing, and here instead of number of stars to be decrementing by incrementing by 2, it should be decrementing by 2. So minus here, and boom, that's all we need to do now is to come now in our main program. Now forget for now about this comment, but I'll tell you guys later where we're going to include some adjustment for the first and the upper part. Anyway, let's just do this one first. So we just need to copy this. It's like the same thing. They say we should ask the user, right? I think before that, let's try ask the user. You see now why I commented here, right? So here, first of all, we are going to ask the user to input the base. So to do that, we are going to ask the user to input the base, right? Let's initialize it. So we're going to be an integer. Now we're going to use our printf statement to ask the user. So enter a, let me say, a positive odd, yes, something like that. Because it should be odd, like a positive. Is that to spell positive? Positive. Odd integer. Yes. Okay. Don't forget. Okay. Our scan f now to print the user to input it. Going to be percentage d, an integer, comma, ampersand, address it to base, and boom, that's all. Okay, so we're going to ask the user to enter a positive odd integer. We're going to store it in base. Now this is going to be transmitted to the parameter. So we're going to take this base and put it in the initialize procedure, which is going to be, so instead from here now we're going to form our initialize. We're going to put base. Now recall that number of stars was the base, right? Maximum number of stars was the base. So instead of it being 9, incorporating in the runtime, in the compile time, it should now be in the compile time. So here I'm going to put base. So the user is going to enter the base. It's going to be sent into this function, which is going to carry it up here, and we're going to give it to max number of stars. You see how it's going nicely and smooth. And instead of it being in the program incorporated, it should be now in the runtime. So that's the parameter we're going to pass. Now to print out the lower part, let's just copy this whole program. Just see and put it below here. Alright. Okay. Now instead of it being adjust, it should be adjust reverse. Right. Adjust reverse. Where is it? Let's just copy and paste to save time. Okay, instead of it being here, adjust reverse B. Yes, with no parameters. Now the condition here is going to be number of stars greater than or equals to 1. Why so? Greater than or equals to 1. Why? Because we see that number of stars is starting from maximum and decrementing to 1. So why number of stars is greater than 1, right? It should keep on with this loop, this do while loop. It should keep on decrementing. When it reaches 1, that's when the condition breaks. I hope you now understand. Okay, now I think we should compare and run and see where we are right now, and correct some errors, because sometimes again no errors. Wow. So we enter, for example, 7. You see why we're going to modify it, because we're going to print out something not really clear. Voila, you see, right? You look very well, you see that our base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me zoom it so you can see clearly. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Our base is printing out 9 while we input it as 7. So to correct that, and you see that our base is also kind of like tick, because 7 is here and 7 is here. So it's like we have taken, let me cancel this. It's like we have taken 2 triangles, right, and just clap it, like join it together. You need to make a way that we cut this last line for the upper part, this last line, right, for the upper triangle, and take now the first line of the lower triangle and join it, so it should be uniform. So that's why here we are going to call again the function reverse. So this other first reference, it corrects to the last line of the upper part, right? So it's going to take the last line of this upper part, as is 7. It's going to take it back to, is it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9? It's going to take it back to 9. And now this other second procedure, again we call it reverse. So we call reverse 2 times. We're going to adjust the first line of the lower part. So we're going to take now, I think this is where it becomes tricky even. So we're going to take now the last line of this, the first line of this other downward part of the triangle, and bring it up where the last line of the upper triangle was. It may sound some kind of like difficult, but I hope you understand. Like, if you just print out just like before, you see that will come out as you saw. Like, yeah, the base is going to print out twice, but this first are just reverse procedure. It takes the last line of the first of the upper triangle back to the line before that, and now takes this other second reverse procedure, brings now the first line of the lower part of the triangle, and to the position where the last line of the upper triangle was. It may sound like jargon right now, but just experiment it as you are coding. Like, try deleting it and run it again and test multiple times. You see what I'm explaining. I think that's it. Let's compare and run if there are errors. Okay, so the first time you saw the way it ran, so we enter, for example, 7. Boom, see now it comes out now uniform with the base 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and it decrements by 2, so it becomes 5, decrement by 2, 3 and 1. So that was all about the program. I hope it's clear. Yes, and you see that there was nothing actually difficult in it. And please, if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and try to comment. I want to know the kind of mistake I make or any issues. Just comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.